Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here, and today we are talking about the ongoing conflict between Alameda County and Tesla in regards to Tesla restarting production. So I want to catch us up on what happened over the weekend, and then we'll go into the news today. And then we have April registration numbers for China, as well as an investor note from Deutsche Bank after their conversation with Tesla's IR team, and updated short interest to cover at the end. Alright, on Saturday's episode, we of course talked about Elon's tweet about suing Alameda County and planning to move Tesla's headquarters out of California. To catch us up to today, shortly after that tweet, Tesla did file that lawsuit, so it looked like something that they had already had prepared before Elon's tweets. We'll talk more about the lawsuit in a minute, but after that suit was filed, we heard publicly from Fremont's mayor, as well as Palo Alto's mayor, which is where Tesla's current headquarters is, in California. Fremont's mayor said, quote, "As the local shelter-in-place order continues without provisions for major manufacturing activity, such as Tesla, to resume, I am growing concerned about the potential implications for our regional economy. We know many essential businesses have proven they can successfully operate using strict safety and social distancing practices. I strongly believe these same practices could be possible for other manufacturing businesses, especially those that are so critical to our employment base. The city encourages the county to engage with our local businesses to come up with acceptable guidelines for reopening our local economy. As we have done for over a decade, the city is prepared to support Tesla as soon as they are able to resume automobile manufacturing operations and are committed to a thoughtful, balanced approach to this effort that remains safe for our Fremont community." End quote. So a pretty openly supportive stance there from Fremont's mayor on this issue. That's important when we look at the vectors at play here. We have 4 different levels. We have federal, state, county, city, and the county is wedged in between federal and state support for reopening manufacturing at the top and city support at the bottom. As we've been talking about, those and other pressures are very likely to facilitate change in the point of view from the county. As I said, we also heard from Palo Alto's mayor. He said, quote, "I would be really sad and disappointed if Tesla left Palo Alto and stand ready to help. I truly appreciate having a cutting-edge company based here, employing people, paying taxes, and helping to solve the climate crisis. Happy to help, Elon Musk." End quote. On the other end of the spectrum of support, we heard from California State Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez on Twitter, who profanely said, "F Elon Musk." Elon replied to this and said, quote, "Message received." End quote. Disappointing to see that. That has stirred up a lot of other drama that I don't particularly care to get into about Gonzalez's voting record and sources of funding for campaigning. Gonzalez has pushed back against some of that, saying that some of the votes in question that seemed like they were yeses for the oil industry were actually yeses for more regulation of the oil industry. So just an FYI for those of you that do want to get into a little bit more detail on that. Anyway, the last little bit of catch up that I wanted to mention from the reaction to Elon's tweets was from Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, who, in response to Elon's tweet about potentially moving HQ and future programs to Texas/Nevada, simply responded with a side-eye emoji. I just thought that one was kind of funny. If you don't speak emoji, generally this one is just used to indicate that something has caught your attention and you want to highlight that fact. Now we'll look at Alameda County's response, and then that'll bring us into present day. So after these tweets on Saturday, Alameda County's health department responded to CNN, as well as other news outlets, I believe, saying, quote, "The team at Tesla has been responsive to our guidance and recommendations, and we look forward to coming to an agreement on an appropriate safety plan very soon." End quote. The New York Times was able to get a little bit more information from the county. They were able to interview the county supervisor for the district that Alameda County is in, and he said, quote, "We're working on a lot of policies and procedures to help operate that plant, and quite frankly, I think Tesla did a pretty good job, and that's why I had it to the point where on May 18th, Tesla would have opened. I know Elon knew that, but he wanted it this week." End quote. This supervisor, Scott Haggerty, said that on Thursday he received a call from somebody at Tesla who told him that Musk was thinking about suing him. He said, quote, "It was only a threat, and as an elected official I get threatened all the time. It does at that point slow down conversations between my contact at the plant and myself." End quote. That doesn't sound great, but I assume the meaning behind that is that with a threat of legal action, they need to be a little bit more careful about how the communication is happening. Not that they would intentionally delay it as sort of a negotiation tactic or something like that, which is, I think, how it kind of first reads. But Haggerty then continues, and this is where I think there's a bit more of an issue. He says, quote, "He could have spent time enjoying his new baby and given me and my staff a couple more days, and his plant would have been open on May 18th. Am I somewhat sympathetic with Tesla? Yes, I am. Am I sympathetic to the way Musk is treating people? No." End quote. That comment gives off a real lack of sense of urgency, and I think it misunderstands the criticalness that each individual day has for Tesla. I mean, production at Fremont is roughly 1,100 vehicles per day, so at a $55,000 average selling price, every day that Tesla is closed is more than $50 million of lost revenue. So a 10-day period is well over $500 million difference in revenue and well over $100 million in gross profit. That's not the kind of thing you can just sit around and say, yeah, we'll wait and see till May 18th and see if they let us reopen then. Especially if your point of view, as Tesla's is that the party that is telling you that you can't reopen doesn't actually have that authority. So anyway, on Saturday, Tesla posted a blog called Getting Back to Work. They outlined their process for restarting, why they are restarting, and publicly posted all of the safety guidelines that they are putting in place. And now today we have several reports of vehicles being seen in the parking lot at Tesla and Elon Musk on Twitter saying, quote, "Tesla is restarting production today against Alameda County rules. I will be on the line with everyone else. If anyone is arrested, I ask that it only be me," end quote. In a press conference this afternoon, Governor Gavin Newsom responded to some questions on the Tesla situation. He said that he was not at that time aware that Tesla had restarted production, but noted, quote, "I'm encouraged by what I'm hearing, and again, I respect the decision on a regional basis of these counties coming together, and that's what's happening on the ground. These conditions present themselves uniquely in the Bay Area as one example, versus other parts of the state. Manufacturing broadly throughout California is no longer restricted with modifications," end quote. He then added, again on Tesla, "I have not only known this company, but I have known its founder for many, many years. I have great respect for their technology, for their innovative spirit, for their leadership. I have great expectations that we are working through this on the county level. The issue with this particular county and this company will be worked out in the next number of days," end quote. So sort of mixed commentary there from Newsom. He doesn't want to backtrack on giving counties more authority to be more strict, but also wants to be supportive of Tesla, so I would imagine there are conversations going on behind the scenes to help get this resolved. Anyway, we also heard from the Alameda County Sheriff's Office in a statement a couple of hours after Elon's tweet, saying, quote, "Today, May 11th, we learned that the Tesla factory in Fremont had opened beyond minimum basic operations. We have notified Tesla that they can only maintain minimum basic operations until we have an approved plan that can be implemented in accordance with the local public health order," end quote. They also add, quote, "We are actively communicating our feedback and understand Tesla will submit a site-specific plan later today, as required under the State of California guidance and checklist for manufacturing issued on May 7th. We look forward to reviewing Tesla's plan and coming to an agreement on protocol and a timeline to reopen safely," end quote. I mean, basically to sum all of this up, Tesla is putting the pressure on. They're going to act and they're going to force everyone else to respond to their actions. As I've said before, I think the county is standing on really weak ground here. I expect all of this to coalesce in the next couple of days into an agreement that will allow Tesla to resume production with the permission of the county, with the county saying something like, "Tesla has demonstrated to us through their safety plan and adding, X, Y, and Z factors to the original plan that they are now ready to go." As it relates to whether or not Elon would actually be arrested, CNBC reached out to local authorities there, and they stated that the Fremont Police Department would have the decision to either enforce or not enforce. So remember we said at the beginning that the Fremont mayor's comments were supportive of Tesla. Tough to see that flipping into a situation where the Fremont police are then arresting Musk a couple of days later. Honestly, if it did happen, that would just generate mind-blowing amounts of press and would probably end up being a net positive for Tesla. I'm also pretty sure Elon understands that, and I think he's much more calculated when it comes to his Twitter comments than people like to believe based on their initial reactions. Not in every case, mind you, but oftentimes. Alright, so I think that mostly catches us up, at least to this hour. Things are changing rapidly, but I did want to go into a little bit more detail on the lawsuit, not super deep here. I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to check out the full case. Again, I expect this to be settled in the next couple of days, but just to point out the gist here, Tesla is stating their case with a multi-pronged argument, saying that in the initial shelter-in-place order for the state of California, the businesses that are deemed by the federal government as critical infrastructure would be essential and would not actually be forced to close. This, in Tesla's view, set the baseline argument that was never superseded at the state level, so Alameda County is acting in direct opposition of that baseline policy allowing Tesla to stay open, and that Alameda County is doing that based on the assumption that further policies allow them to be more strict. However, those further policies, in Tesla's point of view, do not allow counties to make their own call on this baseline policy. So the first argument is that they are acting in opposition to the state. The second argument is that they are acting in opposition to their own policy because in their frequently asked questions section, they say that the manufacturing of distributed energy resource components is essential. So that's the piece that we talked about in Saturday's episode. And then Tesla also argues they are violating the 14th Amendment of the Constitution under the Equal Protection Clause, saying, quote, "Even as at least one neighboring county is allowing car manufacturing to resume, Alameda County continues to insist, in violation of the governor's order and against reason, that what is permitted in a neighboring county will endanger the public health if permitted to also occur within Alameda County borders," end quote. Tesla then provides pages and pages of evidence about their discussions with the county about reopening, and then Tesla asks for a permanent injunction against the order that is preventing them from restarting production, as well as reasonable attorney fees and other relief, including fees and costs of this action to the extent allowed by law. The law firm that Tesla has retained for this case is Quinn Emanuel, which is, according to a survey of 350 legal decision makers at organizations with $1 billion or more in revenue, one of the top 4 most feared law firms in the US. So, as is always the case with Tesla, they have strong legal representation here as well. Last thing on the lawsuit, this is case number 4-20. I think that's purely coincidental. Alright, let's move on to a new topic then. Today we got China registration numbers for April. The China Passenger Car Association is reporting that there were 3,635 Model 3s registered in China in April, which is down from over 10,000 vehicles in March. Generally, with the quarterly batching and the delivery wave, that is to be expected in the first month of a quarter, but it is a little bit different this time with Shanghai ramping up. That should reduce that quarterly wave, but that's clearly not happening immediately, and there were a couple other things happening in April specific to the Model 3. We had the long range announced on April 10th. That may have caused some order volatility. And then, as we've talked about a few times, there were a lot of changes to the electric vehicle subsidies throughout the month and a lot of expectations of Tesla lowering the price to, again, come in alignment with those subsidies. In terms of production, it looks like Tesla produced about 11,200 vehicles in China in April. I haven't seen much reporting on this, but this is coming from D. Couric on Twitter, who we've gotten good information from in the past. So I'll keep an eye out for any other sources on that, but I did want to pass that along. In terms of the demand, we did get a little bit more color on this from a note from Deutsche Bank's analyst, Emmanuel Rosner. They apparently hosted Martin Viecha, Tesla's head of investor relations, for an investor call. TheFly.com has reported on Deutsche Bank's note coming out of that call, and The Fly says, quote, "In China, Tesla is seeing strong demand as long-range Model 3 was just introduced," adds the analyst, end quote. Rosner also says that the company has expressed high confidence that the profit margins in China are on track to be higher than in the United States. It's not clear to me that Tesla would actually say that. That may be his interpretation of Tesla saying that the cost would be lower to produce in China. But of course, we've talked about the different options that Tesla would have with that margin, whether they take the margin or lower prices. So I'm not reading too much into that. And then the final thing here on Deutsche Bank is that apparently Deutsche Bank has said that Tesla reiterated that the order backlog for their vehicles has continued to grow due to their limited production. Last thing today is updated short interest on Tesla stock. It's been a while since we talked about this, but we have new data for the April 30th settlement date, and short interest declined to 17.2 million shares. So this was down from 20.1 million shares as of April 15th, down 14.5%. Over that same period of time, the stock price increased by about 7%, from $729 per share to $782 per share. That 17.2 million shares sold short would be about 11% of the float, which can vary depending on what source you're using, but MarketWatch has the float at about 147 million shares, and that 17.2 million shares sold short would represent about $13.5 billion. The next short interest update will be on May 27th for the May 15th settlement date. That will do it for today though. As always, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and sign up for notifications. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast, and I'll see you next time for the Tuesday, May 12th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.